Hey, what's up? You having a good time tonight? Oh, man, I'm having a ball.
It's wonderful to look at people when you sit down to talk about LA Confidential, and they look at you and they say, this is such a great movie. And you can say, yes, it is a great movie.
It was a little tough because we just sat down and it was the first category, and I was thinking, if I lose, I gotta sit here with that smile for 2.5 hours.
In 1997, the headlines were dominated by the tragic death of Princess Diana.
Such was the gravity of Diana's injuries, they pronounced her dead at 4 a.m. Paris time.
And the end of the UK's lease on Hong Kong, returning it to China. Controversial stem cell research led to the year's top celebrity, the cloned sheep Dolly. Google.com was registered as a domain name, and the debut of the Palm Pilot foretold of technology to come. At the box office, George Lucas re-released his Star Wars Special Edition films, while James Cameron's Titanic went on to break records and dominate award season.
No, it's been really miraculous.
At the Oscars, The Sweet Hereafter earned Adam Egoyan a Best Director nomination, a first for a Canadian directing a Canadian film. Science fiction came to prominence with Starship Troopers and Men in Black. And former In Living Color fly girl J-Lo was the it girl of 1997 in 3 very different and polarizing films.
After Pulp Fiction, we all wanted Pulp Fiction Part 2, and we got Jackie Brown. And I think that disappointed a lot of people, including myself. Years pass, and only do I realize after another viewing of it that this ages like fine wine.
So for my money, Jackie Brown is Quentin Tarantino's most fully realized and mature motion picture, but it's also the one that I feel people overlook when we talk about his oeuvre because it's the least flashy, and it's based on an Elmore Leonard book, and it's the only film that Quentin Tarantino did not write, but directed.
So what we have here is an Elmore Leonard novel that is reining in Tarantino's stylistic traits, you know? Like it's all of a sudden, like he found somewhere to pour his talent into. He found a controlled narrative that brings out the best in him.
I've always wanted to make a Pam Grier movie, all right? But then the idea became to make a more down-to-earth, realistic Pam Grier movie. Pam doesn't solve her problems by whipping guns out of her afro or, you know, kung fuing guys or driving cars through houses, you know, and with a sawed-off shotgun. You know, she's a real human being.
Not a lot of black actresses in their 40s or even their 50s had a lot of opportunity in the 1990s. And so Quentin Tarantino writing this film with Pam Grier in mind is a brilliant act.
You know Tarantino is a fan of blaxploitation, of all the stuff that the 60s and 70s that he grew up on. But the way he just gets Pam Grier, the way he gets her sass, the way he gets her strength, the way he gets her courage is just incredible. He saw in her something that no other filmmaker has ever seen.
I'm not sure you answered my question, Max.
Which one?
If you had the chance, unemployed now, to walk away with $500,000, would you take it?
If anything, Tarantino showed you he was going to surprise you, and that's what he did. He surprised you with a really loving adaptation of an Elmore Leonard novel.
I think that whether or not someone is a fan of Tarantino, I think there's something to be found in Jackie Brown that will really speak to everyone.
To me, the standout film of 1997 was the highest grossing independent film of that year, and that is Eve's Bayou. Eve's Bayou didn't get any Oscar nominations that year. It's actually something that Roger Ebert pointed out was a huge mistake, that the Oscars were sleeping on this film. This is a directorial debut from Casey Lemons, and it is her as an assured and confident director.
Eve's Bayou to me is really special because it shows the complexities of a Black family thriving in a Black community even during the turbulent 60s. And there's a lot of joy within this film, even though there's a bit of sadness to it.
You're in trouble. Go down to King's and come back later. Go quick. They're really mad.
Who mad, baby?
We think a damn doctor.
Who them? They always mad.
You can tell this is a movie made by a woman. It centers women, and I think it takes the side of women. There's sort of this plot in the movie
revolving around the father figure, who's played by Samuel L. Jackson, and whether or not he did this horrible thing.
A lot of films deal with voodoo and hoodoo, and they tend to kind of conflate the two. And what's interesting about Eve's Bayou is not only the meticulousness that it portrays the South at the time, the costuming, also just the feel of Louisiana. And this particular time, you can kind of smell the humidity, and the way that Casey Lemon shoots it is very precise as well.
This is a talented creator with a very specific vision. You know, aside from the women stuff, like, this is a movie about the Black community that doesn't feature white people, doesn't talk about race, it just talks about their personal experiences.
We did not get big films directed by Black women. We barely got a chance to even see the independent ones. And that's why Eve's Bayou is so incredibly important.
Boogie Nights is the breakout film for Paul Thomas Anderson, and this is the film that shows his utter confidence, some might say arrogance, at his ability to make the films that he wants to make and make the films that he has been inspired by. It wasn't that long ago that Scorsese made Goodfellas, and it was only like a year before they went into production on Boogie Nights that Casino came out.
The opening of Boogie Nights is absolutely indebted to a lot of Scorsese's work. Also just the Robert Altman thing of having a hugely expansive cast and all of these expanding storylines and the way that they intersect with one another.
Has there ever been like such a great ensemble of actors under one roof? I mean, Burt Reynolds giving one of his career best in a movie that he then kind of disavowed because he's like, I didn't want to make this, I don't like it, and he got nominated for an Oscar for it.
I don't want to do this kind of subject matter unless it's done with great taste. And I had to take his word for it, and I didn't know if I was prepared to do that. But you know what? He kept his word, and it's very tasteful.
Boogie Nights would be the beginning of the relationship between Paul Thomas Anderson and Philip Seymour Hoffman. And Philip Seymour Hoffman's character in Boogie Nights is so endearing. Just the way he's dressed with kind of tank tops that are just slightly too short so his belly's peeking out. This is really a character that I think is portrayed with so much empathy, and he just wants to be one of the cool guys.
I think the best parts of Boogie Nights are the comedic moments. It has a lot of wonderful drama, but I think seeing what Paul Thomas Anderson could do with comedy was so great, especially the relationship between John C. Reilly and Mark Wahlberg. So funny. That scene with Alfred Molina is just, you know, terrifying and classic comedy. It's a little hard to describe.
It's Cosmo.
And I think now we tend to see Paul Thomas Anderson more as a master filmmaker and a master craftsman, but even amidst the blast of energy that you have in Boogie Nights with him being so young, not yet 30, making this movie, there's just these wonderfully intricate little ideas kind of sewn into the fabric of the movie.
If you asked me when I was a kid what my favorite movie of 1997 was, it would undoubtedly be Men in Black. It is a comedy with aliens, with special effects. It is just everything I loved as a kid.
You got that kind of Tim Burton sci-fi aesthetic because Barry Sonnenfeld is behind the camera. And it's got, you know, that late 90s, oh, we're gonna be really stylish, but we'll also put someone recognizable at the center of it.
Men in Black is entirely about Will Smith. It's about taking the Fresh Prince and dressing him up into a movie star, into carrying a franchise. It's like now he's one of the big boys. He's here with an Academy Award-winning actor named Tommy Lee Jones, and it's about Tommy Lee Jones passing on the baton to Will Smith, and Will Smith becomes a movie star entity from that point.
What is delightful about Men in Black isn't even necessarily the plot. It's all the little stuff around it. It's about this world where aliens just casually live around you. My favorite aliens, I think like a lot of people, are the worm guys who just are sitting in a conference room enjoying cups of coffee. They're just these normal, boring aliens hanging out.
So, you guys seen that Wayne goes?
Sure you don't want some coffee?
The scariest part of Men in Black has to be Vincent D'Onofrio's tour de force performance as a giant cockroach whose human skin doesn't quite fit.
Oh, yeah. Is that leather?
A lot of the stuff is really over the top. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio went through hours and hours of makeup to look kind of like Vincent D'Onofrio, but it's very important and works very well. That mix of practical and CGI is just absolutely perfection in Men in Black.
One of my favorite scenes in Men in Black is when Will Smith goes in and he's filling out paperwork to become a Men in Black, and he has to pull a table closer to those futuristic chairs, and it just shows the charm and the natural comedy that comes out of him. I think it's just a brilliant scene because it just tells you a lot about that character as well.
Want to get down on this?
It showed that a blockbuster action film could be equally funny and action-filled and entertaining and actually smart in the way that it was written. And it launched many sequels.
I, like most of the world when Starship Troopers came out, didn't get it. I'm like, wait, what is happening? Is this supposed to be a joke? It's violent, the action is done really well, but why is Doogie Howser dressed like a Nazi at the end of the movie? And it's only as I got older, wiser, and I listened to the commentary track where the director and the screenwriter tell me, oh no, this is satire, that I finally got it.
It's based on a novel by Robert Heinlein, and it's basically about a future militaristic society which is in a state of perpetual war with giant insects. It sounds ridiculous, and in a way it is ridiculous, but it is ridiculous in a way that I think in the most part is perfectly deliberate on the part of its director.
It's important to point out that Paul Verhoeven, the film's director, grew up in Nazi-occupied Netherlands. So this is something that's very much with him in a lot of his films, and none more so than Starship Troopers.
It's taking a very serious source material and then basically just making fun of it. So as a result, it's both really bad, but also incredibly well made.
The most fun part for me of Starship Troopers is the fake propaganda films throughout. Paul Verhoeven even uses exact shots from Triumph of the Will to show these kind of crazy cut-in propaganda movies that are meant to make you want to kill these bugs. And it does such a great job of showing how ridiculous it is.
Your basic arachnid warrior isn't too smart, but you can blow off a limb. Still 86% combat effective.
There's also a great metatextual layer, of course, that Starship Troopers might be Verhoeven's biggest budget, most bombastic film. So in many ways, he was able to work with the budget of a propaganda film to make this sort of giant propaganda film.
It's got the best aliens. These creatures are scary as hell. And I was terrified. I have never seen people torn apart in the way that this movie tears people apart.
I love Starship Troopers because it's a film that opens itself to so many different, I think, kinds of interpretations. It's enormously fun to watch, and if you are watching it from the perspective that I have come to watch it, it can be an enormously funny film.
Legit social commentary and satire with the gravity of the past of World War II, fascism, the Holocaust, all this blended in a brilliant form of entertainment, and dare I say, art.
No one had a bigger year in 1997 than Jennifer Lopez. This is really the year where she became a household name. And that's because she helmed 3 different films in 1997. The first film that we saw Jennifer Lopez really come to the forefront was, of course, Selena.
There's complicated feelings about Jennifer Lopez playing this character because she's not Mexican-American. She does capture the spirit of Selena, which is this beautiful life and joy for life, which makes her story even more tragic, knowing how it ended.
It's for the first time in my life, I swear, I feel like I'm free. Like I could fly if I wanted to. Like I am flying.
Probably the best scene in the film was Selena playing in a stadium. You see Jennifer Lopez in that iconic suit performing just like Selena. It was also in San Antonio. The stadium was actually filled with real Selena fans, and that shoot really changed the tide on Jennifer Lopez.
When I first came out, I didn't know how the fans were going to accept me, and when I did come out, they were yelling Selena and they were yelling Jennifer, which made me feel very at home, and that they did accept me in the role, and they were there to be supportive and positive.
There are two other films that Jennifer Lopez starred in 1997, and they both involve snakes and a very slimy Jon Voight. In Anaconda, you see Jennifer Lopez in the action genre, and she's really, really good in it. I don't like snakes, this film really scares me, but watching Jennifer Lopez kind of spar with this giant anaconda is sort of a monster film that harkens back to like the 1950s or 1960s.
You can see that Jennifer Lopez is just phenomenally charismatic, and she acts Eric Stoltz off the screen so badly that he has to spend the rest of the movie in a tracheotomy. He's like a tracheotomy patient for the whole film, so that lets J-Lo take over, and she kind of owns the movie.
In Oliver Stone's U-Turn, Jennifer Lopez is kind of at her most sultry.
When you leaving?
Not until I get my car back. Who knows how long that'll take.
In here, I made you all hot and sweaty.
While watching U-Turn, I had to kind of question whether Oliver Stone was potentially inflicted with a snake bite. It seems like it's directed by someone who is completely hallucinating, possibly because they're injected with venom.
Jennifer Lopez's role in U-Turn is another lucky twist of fate. The role was written with Sharon Stone in mind, but there was a scheduling conflict and it went to Jennifer Lopez. I think she again does a wonderful job. Again, it's a role where she is allowed to be incredibly sexy, so you probably just drew people to theaters with her on the poster. I think it really helped make her this star and sex symbol.
To try to do something to an audience is the wrong way around for me. It's the ideas that you fall in love with that dictate, what follows.
One of the, I think, best films of 1997, although it tends to split people rather dramatically, is David Lynch's Lost Highway. So you've got David Lynch, you've got film noir, and you've got Los Angeles. I mean, how can you go wrong with that combination? There's a plot to this movie, and it has something to do with driving at night. That's what I do know. Other than that, essentially the film requires you to almost reach another state of consciousness in order to appreciate what it's all about.
It's like a painter or painting. It's like deciphering a dream. He says to you, you have to participate in this experience. I give you a lot of power here. You have your own opinion about what it's about.
To me, it's the one movie where Patricia Arquette, in the first part of her career, she's just like incandescent, and in the second half of the film has an energy and an aura that's just absolutely remarkable.
He pays girls to party with him. He's always got a lot of cash. He'd be easy to rob. And we'd have the money. We could go away.
Some of the casting in retrospect is just quite terrifying, like Robert Blake as this camcorder-wielding mystery man who features in the film's most famous scene where he seems to cell phone call himself.
How'd you get inside my house?
You invited me. It is not my custom to go where I'm not wanted.
Who are you?
Give me back my phone.
There's something absolutely terrifying. It's sort of pure Lynchian, just fear in that moment. Almost nobody can do it like Lynch. He's able to inject all of his movies with these little moments where it kind of gets you.
Whatever's going on, you can't leave. You need to know where this goes. You need to know how this ends and where it goes. And then once you see it, you need to know how it happened and how Lynch pulled that off narratively. So you watch it again, and then you watch it again.
It's purely emotional, and it really is just like a unique experience for everybody who watches it. For that, I think it's an incredible success.
If you wanted to know what movie nerds were rooting for on Oscar night, it was Curtis Hanson's L.A. Confidential. L.A. Confidential is an adaptation of a James Ellroy novel, And it's a very unique look at old Hollywood and this fun, weird cop story that has thriller elements, it has historical elements, and it all just comes together in a really wonderful movie.
A lot of people might not know the name Curtis Hanson, but I guarantee you've seen at least one of his movies. He was fresh off of The River Wild and Hand That Rocks the Cradle, two movies that I'm sure scarred a lot of younger people in their early days. But his big passion project had yet to be made.
With any movie, the screenplay is the foundation on which you build, and this movie in particular, Brian Helgeland and I worked long and hard on that screenplay, and the fact that James Ellroy, the novelist, loves it as much as he does is a tremendous compliment.
It takes place in the early 1950s, really when the LA police force were edging into celebrity. This is before true crime like we have today, before cop reality shows. It's really kind of the first moment where magazines, like the magazine Confidential that was established in 1952, started reporting on celebrities in a way that a police report would.
The ensemble cast, Kevin Spacey, Guy Pearce, Russell Crowe, Kim Basinger, Danny DeVito, all wearing sharp suits, amazing cars, beautiful lighting, and just a really clever script that always has me coming back to this film.
Remember when Russell Crowe was cool? This was that time. He is so badass in this movie. He has a subdued masculinity, but like, he reeks of it at the same time.
Back when he was this kind of charming brute that kind of works on both levels. He's angry, he's furious, he is just like a ticking time bomb, but he also does have this kind of likability to him that really lends itself to his character.
Somebody hit you?
It's not what you think.
What is it then?
You got the wrong idea, mister. I'm fine. But it's nice to know you care.
If you want to know the kind of subtlety that makes LA Confidential great, I think you need to watch the fight scene between Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe. Those characters are set to kill each other, and they get in this crazy fist fight, and they slowly realize that they are being manipulated into hating each other.
He wants you to kill me.
This movie is like this 90s confection of movie history, right? It just wrapped up all of Hollywood history, all of movie history. In some way, this movie was its own little film school for me. It made me go out and discover everything it's referencing, and that's kind of what made me a film critic.
One of the surprise hits of 1997 that ended up having huge legs was Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery.
I think when watching a film, it becomes really infectious if the person behind and in front of the camera is having the best time ever. And I think you really see this with Mike Myers. He is having so much fun in this role that it's impossible not to feel that joy as well.
The thing is, Mike Myers is playing Austin Powers, who's a character from the time of free love and drugs, who's thrown into the 90s, which is all about, you know, consent, sexism. It is a post-AIDS time, and he's kind of thrown by that. He's hopelessly sexist, which is something he rubs up against. But also at the same time, it is showing certain aspects of the 60s are maybe needed in the 90s.
What's great about Austin Powers, and something that comedies don't do anymore, is explore physical comedy and also comedy within the frame.
You know, like the creamers coming up and pouring the milk, and they're doing all of this like incredibly rude imagery in these mundane scenes are actually really cleverly staged. And when you think about the amount of time and the amount of takes that it would have taken to set up these sets and making sure that everything was perfectly lined up for the camera.
And that kind of like playful, you know, theatrical comedy just doesn't exist in movies anymore. And when you look back on Austin Powers, it seems like a classic because it's utilizing all aspects of comedy.
There are almost too many stupidly funny moments to pick just one in Austin Powers. But I have to say, as a pretty bad driver myself, when I'm trying to go into a three-point turn, I always picture Austin Powers in that little cart trying to maneuver inch by inch in what would turn out to be like a 50-point turn.
I'll never stop laughing when he like pees for a long time. Like there's just so many dumb jokes in this damn movie that get me to this day. So thank you, Austin Powers, for existing, because I think you were very formative to me in a problematic and in a progressive way.
Cube is one of my all-time favorite movies, one of my favorite Canadian horror movies, one of my favorite Canadian sci-fi horror movies, one of my favorite filmmakers.
Cube was not just a Canadian hit, it was a global phenomenon. It garnered a huge cult following, and it really launched director Vincenzo Natali's career.
Cube was a movie that surprised me how much I liked it, because it is puzzling and like this fantastic tight little thriller, and it's my favorite kind of mystery where it doesn't actually matter who died or who put them in this situation. It's just the fact these people are in this situation and they have to escape. And this situation just happens to be a series of cube puzzles.
It is a singular bottle episode-esque kind of contained space that gets sort of reused and sort of remapped through ingenious camera movements and placement of the camera, and through sort of, you know, coloring different rooms they enter. It's a very ingenious way that Vincenzo Natali explores the virtual space, the cinematic space of that environment, while only just using the one set.
I love the simplicity of the film and how little it says and how much there is for the audience to fill in the blanks in terms of what does the cube mean, what's outside the cube. We're really with the characters as they're asking those questions themselves.
I've been over it again and again. Why would they throw innocent people in here? Are we being punished?
I've never done anything to deserve this.
This is probably the best place to figure out where you as a viewer place yourself within the world. Do you believe in fate? Do you believe in a higher power? Do you believe that there is a point to all of this?
You see these incredible resourceful characters thrust together and then destroyed by the system. And there's this one great line about how no one person really understands what's going on. They all work on tiny little parts of it, but even when that's being said, you know it's a lie because somebody set this up.
In 1997, Adam McGowan would become the first Canadian director to win the Grand Prix at Cannes. And it didn't stop there. He would go on to be nominated for Best Director at the Oscars that year, alongside James Cameron. So it was actually a really big year for Canada at the Oscars. The Sweet Hereafter feels like a fairy tale. It's a little bit of Hans Christian Andersen, a little bit of the Grimm brothers, and that's maybe not so surprising when you realize that the story of the film is loosely based on the legend of the Pied Piper.
He's adapting a novel by Russell Banks about a small town that's just reeling in the aftermath of this accident that's claimed the lives of a number of children, just a horrific thing. And that's just an immediate emotional hook for any viewer.
Having this amazing Canadian cast, people who I'd worked with on a number of films before, being able to work with Sarah Polley, who did such a great job in Exotica, and then this amazing English actor that I had always dreamt of working with, Ian Holm, and he responded to the script, and he just fit into this ensemble, Canadian ensemble, so well.
He's this guy who's torn between real emotion and sort of a sleazy need to build this class action lawsuit around an accident. He has this impossible task of essentially trying to find somebody to blame for an accident. It's not something that's real, and he plays it so well. He has such a fascinating emotional arc.
Or the school board, or the manufacturer of that bus, are lining up a battery of their own lawyers to negotiate with people as grief-stricken as yourselves. And that makes me very, very mad.
Adam McGowan is being nominated for Best Director alongside James Cameron. James Cameron had a $200 million budget. Adam McGowan is working with a $5 million budget.
James Cameron came over to me and he said, "You know what? We're both Canadians. We both made the same movie." And I went, "Okay, how do we both make the same movie?" And he goes, "Well, think about it. Large metal objects full of people crashing into ice." And I went, "Okay, you're a genius. You're absolutely right. We made the same movie." His was slightly more successful, weirdly enough, and it ended up winning. And I never understood why. Since we made the same movie, I thought maybe we would share the prize.
It had this extraordinary quality that you see in Adam's earlier films, but it was amped up. It was a kind of a grandeur and a kind of gravitas that was very affecting. You knew immediately after you'd seen it that you'd seen something very important.
This was a story. It was an American novel that would never have been made in that system, but was able to be made as a Canadian film, shot clearly in BC, like it's like BC license plates, and it was like Canadian flags, but was able to then be plugged back into that system at such a high level. That to me was incredibly gratifying. And it was in some ways a way of affirming everything that this system was above, right? That we could make a certain type of film that could not be made elsewhere.
Hey, Titanic holds up. I actually got to rewatch Titanic recently, and I was like blown away by the technical prowess of that film, and that's no surprise because James Cameron always delivers on the craft level.
Titanic is obviously this massive mega hit. It made over $1 billion. It also really opened up the world to the worldwide box office because it made almost double what it made in the United States internationally. It's also kind of a fascinating movie because people went to this movie over and over and over, and I don't think I've ever seen that again in my life.
This is a film that, of course, was one of the most expensive films, if not the most expensive film up until that time, and no expense was spared in terms of props. Cameron employed the White Star Line researchers to design all of the props for things like the dining room and anything you see around the Titanic. Every prop is actually stamped on the bottom with a White Star Line logo that would have been authentic to 1912, even if it was never seen on screen, which, let's face it, 99.9% of the props were not.
The hardest thing to do wasn't, sink the ship or break it in half or, all the things that when you see the movie look difficult. The hardest thing to do was to balance the most intimate, quietest, softest character moments with this big spectacle and have it all seem to be one thing and one story.
Do I really care about the love story? No, I don't. Does my wife? Totally. Why is that? Leo. Dude, it's crazy how pretty Leo was. He was so pretty.
The chemistry between Jack and Rose is off the charts.
Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls. Wearing this.
All right.
Wearing only this.
You just want them to be together and you want them to have sex in that car. Like, you are on board.
I think obviously the heart of Titanic is Kate Winslet. She put up with a lot of nonsense. She had to just wear her dress and be in cold water all the time. She apparently broke bones and ribs. It really sounded like a miserable time, but at the same time you have to remember that James Cameron gave a lot of leeway to her. She was actually able to rewrite lines, and she was given a lot of free rein, and I think she turned Rose into a very fascinating character.
You know I don't like that, Rose.
She knows.
That's what you said.
Every time I hear the words Titanic, I think about that camera pulling back through a hallway as doors are being plowed open with water. Those kinds of moments, those kinds of set pieces that I think makes Titanic a James Cameron movie.
James Cameron walked into the Oscars that night not really thinking that he was going to walk away with anything, but that night he walked away with 11 Oscars. He won that year for Best Editing, he won for Best Directing, and of course, Best Film.
Who can forget his Oscar acceptance speech when he stood up on the stage and yelled, "I'm the king of the world," while holding up his Oscars? But the thing is, in 1997, he kind of was.
It was kind of remarkable to see somebody from Ontario, Canada, James Cameron, seeing that Oscar speech, I'm king of the world, this guy's from Ontario, Canada, anybody can do it.
It's a rewatchable and it holds up. It's really cheesy, but like I say, cheese tastes good on pizza.